The storm arrived at Mercy Hill Hospital just before midnight. Not the kind of storm people remembered because of thunder. The kind people remembered because of what happened inside. Rain hammered against the old hospital windows. The lights flickered every few minutes. The halls that were usually filled with doctors, visitors, and footsteps became strangely quiet, almost abandoned, almost forgotten. Except for one room, room 307. Inside that room, a nurse sat beside a dying man who had no family. No visitors, no one waiting outside. Just a machine, counting down the seconds of a life everyone else had already given up on. Her name was Clara Hayes, and she was the only person in the entire hospital who refused to leave him alone. You know, Clara adjusted the blanket over the old man's shoulders. I think hospitals are strange places. The old man barely opened his eyes. Strange? Yeah, she smiled softly. People come here because they are afraid of losing someone. She looked around the empty room. But sometimes the scariest thing isn't dying. A pause. It's being forgotten. The old man stared at her. For a moment, there was a flicker of emotion in his tired eyes. Why are you still here? His voice was weak. Clara looked at the clock. 12:43 a.m. Her shift had ended almost 4 hours ago. She should have gone home. She should have been sleeping. Instead, she was sitting beside a stranger. Because you asked me not to leave. The old man frowned. I don't remember asking. Clara smiled. You did. When? 3 hours ago. She lowered her voice. You grabbed my hand and whispered, "Please don't let me disappear alone." The man's expression changed. He looked away. Embarrassment, pain, fear, all hidden behind tired eyes. I don't have anyone. Clara was quiet. Then she reached over and gently fixed the blanket again. Tonight, you do. Clara Hayes was not the kind of person people noticed first. She wasn't the loudest nurse. She wasn't the one everyone surrounded. She was the one who stayed late when someone else had already gone home. The one who remembered patients' birthdays. The one who brought coffee to exhausted doctors. The one who smiled even when she was exhausted herself. But behind that kindness was a woman who understood loneliness. Because Clara knew exactly what it felt like. 5 years earlier, she lost her father, the man who raised her, the man who taught her that a person's value was not measured by money or status. It was measured by what they did when nobody was watching. That was why she stayed. Not because the patient was rich, not because he was important, but because he was human. She had no idea that one simple decision would change her entire life. At 1:17 a.m., something unusual happened. The hospital security cameras detected several vehicles entering the parking lot. Not ambulances, not police cars. Black SUVs, 6 of them, moving slowly, like they owned the road. The security guard at the entrance looked through the window. His face changed. No. He immediately stood up. Not tonight. A nurse passing by noticed. What happened? The guard swallowed. Call the director. Why? He looked outside. Because Adrian Moretti is here. The name moved through the hospital like a whisper. Doctors stopped walking. Nurses looked at each other. Even people who had never met him knew who he was. Adrian Moretti, a man surrounded by rumors. A businessman to some. A dangerous figure to others. A man who rarely appeared in public. A man who never rushed. Never begged. Never explained himself. But tonight, he came personally. The elevator doors opened. Adrian stepped out. Black coat, cold expression, silent footsteps. Behind him walked 4 men who immediately spread through the hallway. Not causing chaos. Not threatening anyone. Just watching. Adrian didn't look at the nurses. Didn't look at the doctors. Didn't acknowledge anyone. His eyes were searching for one thing. Room 307. The hospital director rushed toward him. Mr. Moretti. Adrian stopped. Where is he? The director cleared his throat. Your associate is in critical condition. Adrian's eyes narrowed slightly. I asked where he is. The director immediately pointed. Room 307. Adrian walked away. No anger. No shouting. But everyone moved out of his path. Because some people demanded respect. Others carried an atmosphere that made people give it automatically. When Adrian reached room 307, he stopped, because through the small glass window on the door, he saw something unexpected. A nurse, sitting beside the old man, holding his hand, talking to him, smiling. Like he wasn't a feared man. Like he wasn't someone whose name made people afraid. Like he was simply an old person who didn't want to die alone. Adrian opened the door. Clara turned. Her eyes widened. Not because she recognized him, but because of the men standing behind him. Can I help you? The room became silent. Everyone expected fear. Everyone expected her to step back. She didn't. Adrian looked at her, then at the old man. The old man slowly opened his eyes. Adrian. His voice was weak. The Mafia boss stepped forward. For the first time that night, his cold expression cracked. Uncle. Clara froze. Uncle? The patient she had been caring for all night wasn't a forgotten old man. He was family, and Adrian Moretti, the most feared man in the city, was standing beside his hospital bed. Adrian looked at Clara. His eyes moved to the chair beside the bed, the coffee cup she had brought, the blanket she had adjusted, the notes she had written, the small details nobody else noticed. You stayed with him? Clara nodded. Yes. Why? The question surprised her. She looked at the old man, then back at Adrian, because he needed someone. A long silence followed. Adrian stared at her. Most people asked him for favors, money, protection, opportunities. This woman had given something no one could buy. Her time, her compassion, without expecting anything. Then the old man spoke quietly. Adrian. Everyone turned. The old man looked at Clara. Don't let her leave. Clara frowned. What? Adrian looked at his uncle. What are you saying? The old man closed his eyes. She saved my life. Adrian's expression changed. The room went silent. Because Adrian Moretti knew something everyone else didn't. His uncle had survived an attack that should have killed him. And the only person who stayed beside him during those final hours was this nurse. But before Adrian could ask another question, his phone vibrated. One message, one photograph. His face changed immediately. The image showed Clara leaving the hospital earlier that evening. Someone had been watching her, tracking her, following her, and beneath the picture was a sentence. The nurse knows more than she realizes. Adrian looked at Clara, for the first time, not as a nurse, not as a stranger, but as someone who had suddenly become part of a war she never knew existed. Clara noticed his expression. What happened? Adrian locked his phone. Nothing. But his eyes said something different. Because Adrian Moretti had spent his entire life protecting people from danger. And now, for reasons he couldn't explain, he wanted to protect her. Outside the hospital, another black SUV stopped. A man inside watched room 307 from across the street. He made a phone call. Yes. A pause. She's with him. Another pause. Then the plan has changed. He looked up at the hospital window. The nurse is no longer just a witness. She's the target. The rain continued falling over Mercy Hill Hospital. But inside room 307, the storm had already arrived. Clara Hayes stood frozen beside the bed. She could feel the tension in the room. Not the kind caused by doctors waiting for test results. Not the kind caused by a family fearing loss. Something different. Something dangerous. The men behind Adrian Moretti weren't hospital security. They weren't ordinary assistants. They watched every doorway, every window, every movement. And Clara suddenly realized something. The patient she had been caring for all night was not just an old man. He was someone powerful enough to bring fear into a hospital without saying a word. Adrian looked at her. "Your shift ended hours ago." Clara blinked. "Yes." "Why are you still here?" She looked at the old man. "Because he needed me." Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. "You always stay with patients after your shift?" "Sometimes." "Why?" The question sounded almost suspicious. Clara frowned. "Because that's my job." "No." Adrian looked at her. "That's not your job." The room went quiet. "Your job is to give medicine, check vital signs, follow procedures." He glanced at the old man. "Staying beside someone when nobody is watching." A pause. "That's something else." Clara didn't know what to say, because the way he spoke didn't sound like criticism. It sounded like confusion, like he couldn't understand why someone would do something kind without wanting something in return. The old man on the bed smiled weakly. "Adrian." The Mafia boss looked over. "She reminds me of your mother." A shadow crossed Adrian's face. "Don't." The old man sighed. "She does." Clara looked between them. "Your mother?" Adrian said nothing. The old man smiled. His mother was the only person who could make him care about strangers. Adrian looked away. "Uncle." "What?" "Rest." The old man laughed quietly. "You always hated uncomfortable conversations." Clara noticed something. For a moment, Adrian Moretti wasn't the terrifying man everyone described. He was just a son. A person carrying old wounds. A person who didn't know how to respond when someone spoke about love. A doctor entered the room. "Mr. Moretti." Adrian turned. "The patient's condition is stable." "Good. But..." Adrian's eyes sharpened. "But what?" The doctor lowered his voice. "The injuries weren't from an accident." Silence. Clara looked at Adrian. The air changed instantly. "What do you mean?" The doctor hesitated. There were signs of violence. Adrian didn't move, didn't react, but everyone in the room felt it. Something inside him changed. The calm disappeared. Not completely, just enough. "Who knows?" Adrian asked. The doctor swallowed. "Only the medical team." "Names." The doctor hesitated. "Mr. Moretti." "Names." The doctor quickly gave him the list. Adrian took the paper. His eyes scanned it, then stopped. One name. A nurse. Clara noticed. "What?" Adrian folded the paper. "Nothing." She stared at him. "You keep saying that." A pause. "But something is always wrong." The room became silent. Nobody spoke to Adrian that way. Nobody questioned him. But Clara did. Not because she wasn't afraid. Because she was. But fear didn't stop her from asking the truth. Adrian studied her. "You should go home." "No." His eyes narrowed. "No?" Clara shook her head. "I want to know what happened." "Why?" "Because I was here." "That makes it dangerous." "Exactly." She looked at him. "Which means pretending nothing happened won't make it disappear." For the first time, Adrian had no immediate answer. Because she was right. And he hated that. Not because she challenged him, because she reminded him of someone. Someone who always searched for the truth. Someone who had died because of it. Adrian stepped closer. "Listen carefully." His voice lowered. "You don't know who you are standing near." Clara held his gaze. "I know enough." "No, you don't." "I know an old man was hurt." A pause. "I know everyone left him alone." Another pause. "And I know you came here because you care about him." Adrian looked at her. So? So maybe you're not as dangerous as people think." Silence. The words surprised him, because people always saw Adrian Moretti as a monster. A man with power. A man with enemies. A man without weakness. Nobody looked deeper. Nobody tried. Until her. Suddenly, the lights went out. The entire hospital fell into darkness. Emergency alarms started. Patients screamed in distant rooms. The hallway filled with confusion. Adrian reacted instantly. Lock down this floor. His men moved immediately. Clara looked around. What happened? Adrian didn't answer. He moved toward the door, then stopped, because he heard something. A sound most people would miss. Footsteps. Slow. Controlled. Coming closer. A man appeared at the end of the hallway, wearing a hospital uniform, walking calmly, too calmly. Adrian's expression changed. Everyone stay back. The man smiled. Adrian. Clara looked at him. You know him? Adrian didn't answer, because he recognized the face. A face from his past. A face that should have disappeared years ago. Daniel Voss. The man smiled. Still remember me. Adrian's men immediately raised their weapons. Daniel laughed softly. Relax. He looked around. I'm not here to kill anyone. A pause. I'm here to deliver a message. Adrian stepped forward. What message? Daniel looked at Clara, then at the old man, then back to Adrian. The person who attacked your uncle wasn't trying to kill him. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Then what were they doing? Daniel smiled. They were testing you. Silence. Testing me. Yes. Daniel walked closer. Someone wanted to know if you still cared. Clara felt a chill. Who? Daniel looked at her. Your enemies. Adrian immediately moved between them. Daniel noticed and smiled. There it is. What? The weakness. Adrian's expression became cold. Choose your next words carefully. Daniel laughed. You don't even realize it yet. He looked at Clara. The nurse is the reason they changed the plan. Clara's heart sank. What does that mean? Daniel ignored her. He looked at Adrian. She wasn't supposed to survive tonight. Adrian's eyes hardened. Explain. The attack was designed to remove your uncle. A pause. But then she stayed. Another pause. She changed the outcome. The hallway became silent. Clara looked confused. I don't understand. Daniel looked at her. Neither do they. Adrian stepped forward. Who sent you? Daniel smiled. Someone who knows the truth about your uncle. Name. Daniel looked toward room 307, then whispered, someone who knows why he came here. Adrian's face changed. Because his uncle hadn't been visiting Mercy Hill Hospital. He had been hiding. And suddenly, the patient Clara had protected all night was not the victim. He was the keeper of a secret. Daniel walked backward. Before disappearing into the darkness, he said, Ask your uncle about the woman he was supposed to protect 20 years ago. Adrian froze. What woman? Daniel smiled. The woman who gave birth to the person standing beside you. His eyes moved to Clara, and in that moment, the entire hallway went silent. Because Clara understood something terrifying. This was not about her helping a patient. This was about her. The lights returned. Daniel was gone. Adrian stood motionless. His men searched the hallway. Nothing. No trace. No evidence. Only one thing remained. A small envelope placed outside room 307. Adrian picked it up. His name was written on the front. Inside was an old photograph, a woman, a baby, and a handwritten note. The girl you are protecting is the reason your family fell apart. Adrian looked at Clara, and for the first time since arriving at the hospital, he wondered if protecting her was saving an innocent woman or bringing an old enemy back to life. The photograph felt heavier than it should have. It was only a small piece of paper, a faded image, a few words written by someone whose identity Adrian Moretti didn't know. But somehow, it carried the weight of 20 years of secrets. He stood outside room 307, staring at the picture under the cold hospital lights. A woman, a newborn baby, and a note. The girl you are protecting is the reason your family fell apart. Adrian had faced men with weapons. He had stared down enemies who wanted him dead. He had walked into situations where everyone expected him to lose. But this was different, because this wasn't an enemy standing in front of him. It was a question, and Adrian Moretti hated questions more than threats. "Boss," his lieutenant approached carefully. "We searched every floor. Nothing? Nothing." Adrian folded the photograph. "Find Daniel Voss." The lieutenant hesitated. "We thought he was dead." Adrian looked at him. "So did I." A pause. "That means someone wants us to believe it." Inside the room, Clara watched Adrian through the glass. She couldn't hear the conversation, but she could see the change. The man who entered the hospital with complete control now looked like someone who had just discovered a wound that never healed. The old man on the bed slowly opened his eyes. "Clara." She turned. "Yes? Come here." She walked closer. His voice was weak. "Is Adrian angry?" She looked toward the door. "I don't know." The old man smiled sadly. "Adrian doesn't get angry." A pause. "He gets quiet." Clara frowned. "What's the difference?" The old man closed his eyes. "When Adrian gets angry, people know." A pause. "When he gets quiet," he whispered, "people disappear." Clara looked at him. "Who is Adrian Moretti?" The old man opened his eyes again. For a moment, he seemed to search for the right answer. "Someone who lost too much." "That doesn't answer my question." "No." A tired smile. "But it's the truth." Before Clara could ask more, Adrian entered the room. The atmosphere changed instantly. The old man noticed. "You found something." Adrian didn't answer. He walked toward the bed. "Who is Clara Hayes?" The question was direct. Clara froze. The old man looked at him. "Why are you asking?" "Because someone believes she matters." Silence. The old man's eyes moved toward Clara, then back to Adrian. "She does." Adrian's expression hardened. "Why?" The old man sighed. "Because not everything in this world is about power." Adrian placed the photograph on the table. The old man's face changed. Only for a second. But Adrian saw it. "You know this." The old man didn't speak. "Who is she?" A long silence. Then, "Adrian." The old man's voice became softer. "Some doors stay closed because opening them destroys everything behind them." Adrian stared. "I asked you a question, and I am trying to protect you." The words hit Adrian, because he had heard them before. Everyone who hid something from him always used the same excuse. Protection. That's what everyone says before they lie. The old man looked hurt. "You're right." Adrian looked surprised. "I was wrong." The old man continued. "I should have told you years ago." Clara looked between them. "What are you talking about?" Neither answered, and that frightened her more than the danger. Adrian looked at Clara. "You need to leave the hospital." She frowned. "What?" "This isn't safe anymore. I'm a nurse." "Not tonight. I have patients." "Find another nurse." The answer was cold. Clara stared at him. "You can't just decide my life for me." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Someone is hunting you, and your solution is to control me?" The room went silent. His men looked away. Nobody challenged Adrian Moretti. But Clara did. "I spent my entire life taking care of people who were scared." She stepped closer. Children, elderly patients, people who had nobody. Her voice softened. "And now you're telling me that when I become the one in danger, I should run?" Adrian said nothing. Clara shook her head. "That's not who I am." Something changed in his expression. Not anger. Recognition. Because he understood something. She wasn't fearless. She was afraid. But she refused to let fear decide who she became. The old man smiled faintly. She has courage. Adrian looked at him. That doesn't make her safe. No. The old man looked at Clara. But it makes her worth protecting. Before Adrian could respond, a crash came from the hallway. One of his guards fell through the doorway. Blood on his shoulder. Everyone moved instantly. Adrian pushed Clara behind him. His men surrounded the room. "Where?" Adrian asked. The guard struggled to speak. "Roof." A pause. "Sniper." The hospital erupted into chaos. Adrian looked upward. A sniper. Inside a hospital. Targeting this room. Targeting his uncle. Targeting Clara. He grabbed the old man's bed and pushed it away from the window. Then he grabbed Clara. Not gently. Not roughly. Just quickly. Protectively. The bullet shattered the glass. Clara froze. She felt Adrian's arm around her. The sound of the gunshot echoed through the room. For a second, the feared Mafia boss wasn't a powerful man. He was just someone making sure she stayed alive. "Are you hurt?" Adrian asked. Clara looked at him. "I'm fine." His eyes searched her face. "Are you sure?" She nodded. But she noticed something. His hand was bleeding. The glass had cut him while shielding her. "You are." Adrian looked down. "It's nothing." Clara almost laughed. Everyone says that when something is clearly not nothing. She took a medical cloth from the table. Before Adrian could stop her, she wrapped it around his hand. His men stared. No one touched Adrian. No one treated his injuries. But this woman did. Without hesitation. Adrian watched her. "Why?" She looked up. "Why what?" "Why aren't you afraid?" Clara tied the bandage. "I am." That surprised him. "Then why?" She looked directly into his eyes. "Because being afraid doesn't mean I stop caring." For a moment, the entire room disappeared. The old man, the guards, the danger, everything. Then the heart monitor suddenly changed. The old man's condition dropped. Doctors rushed in. "Everyone out!" Adrian moved. But before leaving, the old man grabbed his wrist, weakly. "Adrian." He leaned closer. "Find her mother." Adrian froze. "What?" The old man looked at Clara, then whispered, "She doesn't know who she is." Clara heard. Her face changed. What did he mean? Nobody answered. The doctors pushed everyone out. The door closed. Minutes later, Adrian stood outside the ICU. Clara stood beside him. Neither spoke. Finally, she asked, "Who is my mother?" Adrian looked at her. "I don't know. But you know something." A pause. "Don't you?" He looked away. And that was the answer. Clara's voice became quieter. "All my life, I thought I was just ordinary." She looked through the ICU window. "My father left when I was little. My mother died when I was young. I built my life by myself." A pause. "Now people are telling me my entire life is a lie." Adrian said nothing. Because he didn't know how to comfort someone. He only knew how to protect them. Then, his phone rang. "Unknown number," he answered. A woman's voice came through. Old, tired, familiar. "Adrian." His entire body froze. Because he recognized that voice. A voice he hadn't heard in 20 years. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "The woman you have been searching for." Adrian's face changed. Clara watched him. "Your mother." Silence. The woman continued. "Listen carefully. Clara Hayes is not who you think she is." Adrian's grip tightened. "Where are you?" "No time." A pause. "Someone knows I called." The line became filled with static. Then the final words came through. "Protect her." A long pause. "Because the man who wants her dead is your father." The call ended. Adrian stood completely still. Because the past he thought was buried had just come back alive, and standing beside him was the woman connected to all of it. The call ended, but Adrian Moretti continued holding the phone against his ear, as if somehow, if he waited long enough, the voice would return. 20 years. 20 years since he last heard that voice. 20 years since he stood at his mother's funeral and watched an entire chapter of his life disappear. His men watched silently. They had seen Adrian face enemies. They had seen him survive betrayal. They had seen him walk through danger without hesitation. But they had never seen him frozen. Not once. Until now. "Boss." Adrian slowly lowered the phone. His expression was unreadable. But his eyes had changed. Clara noticed. She had only known him for a few hours. Yet somehow, she could tell. The man everyone feared was hurting. Not physically. Something deeper. "That was your mother?" Adrian looked at her. For a second, he considered lying. It was what he always did. Hide information. Control the situation. Protect himself. But something stopped him. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was her. No. A pause. "That was someone claiming to be my mother." Clara studied him. "Do you believe her?" Adrian looked through the ICU window. At the old man fighting for his life. At the hospital room, where everything had changed. "I don't know." That answer surprised her. Because Adrian Moretti seemed like a man who always knew. But maybe, knowing wasn't the same as understanding. A doctor stepped out. "The patient is stable." Everyone exhaled. "However, his condition is serious." Adrian nodded. "Keep him alive." The doctor hesitated. "We are doing everything we can." Adrian looked at him. Not threatening. Not angry. Just intense. The doctor immediately understood. This wasn't a demand. It was a desperate request from someone who didn't know how to ask. Later that night, Clara sat in the hospital cafeteria. A cup of untouched coffee sat in front of her. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. Her entire life had turned upside down in less than 12 hours. A stranger she helped was connected to a powerful family. A dangerous man was protecting her. Someone was trying to kill her. And apparently, her own identity was a mystery. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. "Who are you?" The question came out quietly, because she genuinely didn't know anymore. She remembered her childhood. A small apartment. Her mother's voice. The smell of homemade soup. Her father's old books. Simple memories. Normal memories. But now, everyone was suggesting there was something hidden beneath them. A chair moved across from her. Clara looked up. Adrian sat down. No guards. No intimidating presence. Just him. She was surprised. "I thought people like you didn't sit in hospital cafeterias." He looked at the coffee. "I don't usually." "Then why now?" A pause. "Because you looked like you needed someone." The irony almost made her smile. The man who was supposed to be protecting her was doing the same thing she had done for his uncle. "You don't know anything about me." "No." "Then why do you care?" Adrian looked away. "I don't know." That honesty surprised her. Again. "You don't know?" "No." He looked back. "But I know my uncle trusted you." A pause. "And my mother told me to protect you." Clara lowered her eyes. "Your mother doesn't even know me." "Maybe she does." The answer made Clara look up. "What does that mean?" Adrian didn't respond. Because he didn't know. And that bothered him. Clara leaned back. "I hate this." Adrian watched her. "What?" Not knowing. She looked at him. "Everyone keeps looking at me like they know something I don't." A pause. "I spent my whole life trying to become someone reliable. I worked hard. I helped people. I built a life." Her voice cracked slightly. "And now suddenly I'm just a piece in someone else's story." Adrian was silent. Then he said, "You're not." Clara looked at him. "You don't know that." "I do." "How?" Because pieces don't make choices. A pause. They don't stay with dying strangers. They don't stand in front of danger. They don't argue with me. A faint hint of emotion crossed his face. You're not a piece. Clara looked at him. For the first time, she saw the man beneath the reputation. Not a mafia boss. Not a powerful figure. Just Adrian. A man who had lost his family and was afraid of losing more. Before she could answer, the cafeteria doors opened. A hospital employee walked in. Too calm, too focused. Adrian immediately noticed. Clara didn't. The man walked closer. Ms. Hayes. She turned. Yes? The man smiled. I'm here to take you somewhere safe. Clara frowned. I don't know you. The man's hand moved toward his pocket. Adrian stood instantly. Stop. The man's eyes shifted. Too late. Adrian was already moving. The man pulled out a weapon. The cafeteria erupted. Tables overturned. People screamed. Adrian grabbed Clara and pulled her down. The shot missed. His men rushed through the doors. The attacker tried to escape. Adrian followed. Fast. Silent. Controlled. The hallway became a blur. The attacker ran toward the emergency exit. Adrian caught him before he reached the door. One movement. One strike. The weapon fell. The man hit the floor. Adrian stood over him. Who sent you? The attacker laughed. You think you're protecting her? Adrian grabbed his collar. Who? The man smiled. The same person who destroyed your family. A pause. The same person who knows what Clara really is. Adrian's expression darkened. Name. The attacker looked toward Clara, then whispered, her father. Everything stopped. Clara stood frozen several meters away. My father? The attacker laughed. Your father wasn't a victim. He was the reason this war started. Adrian's men dragged the attacker away, but the damage was already done. Clara looked at Adrian. Is that true? Adrian didn't answer. And once again, his silence became the answer. She stepped back. Tell me. Clara. No. Her voice was stronger. I have spent my entire life being protected from the truth. A pause. I want it. Adrian stared at her. You may not like it. I don't care. People have died because of it. She looked at him. Then I deserve to know why. For a long moment, Adrian said nothing. Then he took the old photograph from his pocket, the one from Daniel Voss. He placed it on the table. Clara looked at it. Her face changed. Because the woman holding the baby was familiar, not from memory, from somewhere else. Who is she? Adrian answered quietly. Your mother. Clara's breathing stopped. No. Yes. That's impossible. Adrian watched her. Why? Because my mother looked different. A pause. Because she died. Adrian's eyes hardened. Someone lied to you. Clara looked at the photograph again. Then she noticed something. A necklace. Around the woman's neck. A small silver pendant. Her hand moved to her own necklace. The same pendant. The same symbol. Her face went pale. I've had this since I was a child. Adrian looked closer. And suddenly, he understood. The symbol wasn't random. It wasn't a family decoration. It was a mark. A symbol connected to his family. A symbol that had disappeared 20 years ago. The symbol of a woman everyone believed was dead. Adrian whispered, Your mother wasn't just connected to my family. Clara looked at him. What then? His eyes moved to the pendant. She was part of it. A message arrived on Adrian's phone. Another unknown number. One sentence. Now you know why she must never remember. Adrian looked up. Remember what? The phone received another message. A video. He opened it. The screen showed a young Clara, maybe 6 years old, standing beside a man whose face made Adrian go completely still. Because he knew him. Everyone in his world knew him. The man who supposedly died 20 years ago. The man who started the war. Adrian whispered, "Impossible." Clara looked at the screen. "Who is that?" Adrian didn't answer, because the truth was finally revealing itself, and it was worse than anyone imagined. The man in the video was Clara's father, and he was standing beside a young Adrian Moretti. The video played silently on Adrian's phone. A child. A man. A memory that should not exist. Clara stared at the screen. She saw herself. A younger version of herself. Maybe 6 years old. Standing in a garden she didn't recognize. Holding the hand of a man she had spent her entire life believing was a stranger. But Adrian knew exactly who he was. The man in the video was not a stranger. He was a ghost. A man whose name had been erased from conversations. A man whose death had ended one chapter of the Moretti family. Or so everyone believed. Who is he? Clara's voice was barely a whisper. Adrian didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the screen, because saying the name out loud meant accepting something he had spent 20 years denying. Finally, Marcus Hayes. Clara looked confused. "That's my father's name." Adrian nodded. "Yes." "Then why do you look like you know him?" A pause. "Because I do." The hospital hallway suddenly felt smaller. Clara looked around. The doctors, the nurses, the guards, everyone moving around them. A normal world continuing outside, while her entire reality was breaking apart. "My father was just a businessman." Adrian looked at her. "Who told you that?" She hesitated. "My mother. And you trusted her." The words were not cruel. Just honest. Clara looked away. "She was my mother." Adrian lowered his voice. "I know." He understood that sentence, because he had spent years defending people he loved. Even when the truth hurt. Even when the truth destroyed everything. "Tell me." Clara looked back at him. "Everything." Adrian was silent. Then he looked at his men. "Leave." They immediately moved away. Even his lieutenant understood. This conversation wasn't for them. Adrian sat across from Clara. For the first time, he wasn't acting like a powerful man. He wasn't giving orders. He was telling a story he wished had never happened. 20 years ago, there were 2 families. Clara listened carefully. The Morettis. A pause. "And the Hayeses." She frowned. "Hayeses? Your family." Adrian continued. "Our families worked together. Not friends." "Not exactly." His eyes darkened. His eyes darkened. "Partners?" Clara swallowed. "Partners in what?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was complicated. And ugly. Protection. A pause. Information. Another pause. Power. Clara looked down. "So my father was involved." "Yes." "With your family?" "Yes." She laughed quietly. Not because it was funny. Because it hurt. "I spent years believing I was normal." Adrian said nothing. "I thought my biggest problems were student loans and working overtime." A pause. "Now I'm finding out my family was connected to yours." She looked at him. "And people are trying to kill me." Adrian's expression changed. "Nobody will touch you." Clara noticed the certainty in his voice. "You can't promise that." "I can." "Why?" A pause. "Because I won't let them." The answer was simple. Almost impossible. But somehow, she believed him. Before Clara could respond, Adrian's phone rang. His lieutenant. He answered. "Speak." A pause. His expression changed. "Where?" Another pause. "I'm coming." He ended the call. Clara immediately noticed. "What happened?" Adrian stood. "Your mother was found." Her heart stopped. "What?" "She's alive." The words hit harder than she expected. For years, Clara had lived with the pain of losing her mother, and now, she might still exist. She might have answers. She might explain everything, but fear appeared alongside hope. Where is she? Adrian hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. Adrian. Clara. Where? A pause. She was found outside the city. Is she safe? Adrian looked at her. We don't know. They left the hospital 20 minutes later. For Clara, the world outside felt different. The city lights, the roads, the people walking by. Everything looked normal, but she knew better now. Sometimes the most dangerous things existed beneath ordinary appearances. The convoy traveled through the city. Clara sat in the back seat beside Adrian. The silence between them was heavy. Finally, she asked, "Did you hate my father?" Adrian looked out the window. Yes. The honesty surprised her. Why? Because he betrayed my family. A pause. He betrayed my father. How? Adrian's expression hardened. He knew something. What? That someone inside my family was planning a betrayal. Clara frowned. And he didn't tell you? No. Why? Adrian looked at her. Because he was trying to protect someone. Who? A long pause. Then, me. Clara froze. Your father protected you. Adrian nodded. At least that's what I believed. What changed? Someone killed him. Silence. And everyone blamed him. The vehicle stopped. They arrived at an abandoned countryside house. No lights. No movement. Too quiet. Adrian immediately noticed. Stay here. Clara sighed. You're going to tell me to stay safe again? Yes. And I'm going to ignore you. He looked at her. For a second. Almost a smile. Almost. You make that very predictable. Good. Adrian stepped out. His men followed. The house was searched. Minutes passed. Then Adrian's voice came through the radio. Clear. Clara entered. Inside, everything was untouched. Except one room. A small bedroom. A child's bedroom. Her bedroom. Clara stopped. The walls were painted light blue. A shelf filled with old books. A wooden box on the floor. She walked closer. Her hands trembled. I know this place. Adrian looked at her. You remember? She shook her head. No. A pause. But I feel like I do. She opened the wooden box. Inside were old drawings, photographs, letters, and one small diary. Her name was written on the cover. Clara. She opened it. The first page contained a message. Not from her. From her father. If you are reading this, then they finally found you. Clara's breathing became unsteady. She continued. I need you to know something. Everything I did was to keep you alive. I know people will tell you I was a monster. Maybe I was. But I was also your father. Tears filled Clara's eyes. Adrian stood behind her silently, giving her space. The diary continued. The Morettis are not your enemy. Clara looked at Adrian. He noticed. But one of them is. The next page was torn out. Only one sentence remained, written heavily, almost like the person writing it was afraid. Trust Adrian Moretti. Clara looked up. Adrian froze, because he had never seen those words before. Not from Marcus, not from anyone. Then something fell from the diary. A small key. Attached to it was a note. 3 words. For your mother. A sound came from outside. A vehicle. Then another. Adrian immediately moved toward the window. His face changed. Black SUVs, surrounding the house. Not his men. Someone else. Clara looked at him. Who are they? Adrian's hand moved toward his weapon. The calm disappeared. The people who have been waiting for this moment. The front door exploded open. Men entered, but they didn't attack. They stood aside, making a path. And through that path, someone walked inside. An older woman. Weak, tired, but alive. Clara stopped breathing. "Mom?" The woman looked at her. Tears filled her eyes. "Clara." But before Clara could move, Adrian stepped in front of her. Because he recognized the woman too. Not because he knew her. Because of the person standing behind her. A man wearing a black coat. A man everyone thought was dead. A man who smiled when he saw Adrian. "Hello, Adrian." Adrian's face turned cold. Because the man standing in the doorway was Marcus Hayes, Clara's father, the dead man who had just returned. For 20 years, Adrian Moretti had carried one image in his mind: a funeral, a closed coffin, a promise he made to himself as a young man standing in the rain: never trust ghosts. But now, the ghost was standing in front of him, alive, breathing, smiling. Marcus Hayes looked exactly like the memory Adrian tried to bury: older, more tired, but unmistakably the same man. The man everyone believed was dead. The man whose disappearance changed two families forever. Clara couldn't move. Her eyes stayed fixed on the stranger standing across the room. Her father, the man she had cried for, the man she had buried in her heart, the man she had spent years wondering about. "You're alive." Her voice broke. Marcus looked at her. And for the first time, the confident expression disappeared. He looked like a father, not an enemy, not a businessman, just a father seeing his daughter again. "Clara." A tear moved down his face. "I'm sorry." The words were simple, but they carried years of pain. Clara stepped forward, then stopped, because she didn't know what to feel. Anger, relief, betrayal, love. Everything existed at the same time. "You let me believe you were dead." Marcus lowered his eyes. "Yes." "Why?" Silence. Then, because being dead was the only way to keep you alive. Adrian watched carefully. He didn't trust easily, especially not people who returned from the dead. Especially not people connected to his family's darkest moments. "Explain." Marcus looked at him. The room became colder. Still protecting people by standing between them and danger? Adrian's expression didn't change. Still hiding behind excuses? A pause. The two men stared at each other. 20 years of anger. 20 years of unanswered questions. Standing in the same room. Marcus sighed. "You have your father's eyes." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Don't mention him." Marcus nodded. "I understand." "No." Adrian stepped closer. "You don't." His voice remained calm, but Clara felt the anger beneath it. "My father died believing you betrayed him." Marcus looked away. "I know. My family destroyed yours." "I know. You disappeared." "I know." Adrian's eyes sharpened. "Then tell me why I shouldn't believe you are exactly who everyone said you were." Marcus didn't answer. Because there was no easy answer. Instead, he looked at Clara. "Because of her." Clara frowned. "Me?" Marcus nodded. "Everything I did was because of you." Clara shook her head. "That doesn't explain anything." "No." Marcus looked at her sadly. "But it explains everything I lost." He walked toward the table, slowly, carefully, like he knew every movement mattered. He placed an old folder down. "This is the truth." Adrian didn't touch it. "Why now?" "Because they found her." His eyes moved toward Clara. "The people who wanted her gone." A pause. "And because I can't run anymore." Clara looked at the folder. "What is inside?" Marcus answered quietly. "The reason your mother disappeared." Silence. Clara looked at him. "My mother didn't die?" "No." A pause. She was taken. Her face changed. By who? Marcus looked at Adrian, and Adrian immediately understood. The answer was connected to him. Someone inside the Moretti family. The room went silent. Again. The same accusation, the same shadow, the same mystery. But this time, it came from Clara's father. Adrian stepped forward. Name. Marcus shook his head. Not yet. Adrian's expression darkened. You're still doing this? Doing what? Hiding the truth. Marcus looked at him. No. A pause. Trying to keep people alive. Clara suddenly slammed her hand against the table. Everyone looked at her. I am tired. Her voice trembled. Not with weakness. With exhaustion. I am tired of everyone deciding what I can handle. She looked at Marcus. You disappeared. Then Adrian. You protect me without asking. Then the folder. You all have answers. A pause. And I have spent my entire life being the last person to know anything about myself. Nobody spoke, because she was right. For the first time, the powerful people in the room had nothing to say. Clara wiped her eyes. I want the truth. Marcus nodded slowly. You deserve it. He opened the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, names, and one picture. Adrian immediately recognized it. His breath stopped, because the photograph showed 4 people. His father, Marcus Hayes, Clara's mother, and himself. As a child. Clara looked confused. Why am I there? Marcus answered. Because our families were never enemies. Adrian looked at him. Then what were we? Marcus stared at the photograph. Family. The word felt impossible. Adrian stepped back. No. Marcus looked at him. Your father knew. Knew what? That Clara existed. Adrian froze. What? Marcus continued. He knew your mother and I had a daughter. Clara looked shocked. My father knew him? Marcus nodded. Your father trusted him. Then why did everyone hate each other? A painful silence. Then Marcus said, because someone made sure we would. A sudden noise came from outside. Adrian turned instantly. A car door. Then another. His men moved. Boss. The lieutenant's voice came through the radio. We have a problem. Adrian answered. What? A pause. Then, the people surrounding the house aren't Marcus's men. Silence. They're ours. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What? The lieutenant continued. They're wearing Moretti security marks. Everyone froze, because that meant only one thing. Someone inside Adrian's organization had betrayed him. Again, Adrian looked at Marcus. Then Clara. Then the armed men outside. The enemy was no longer outside the family. It was inside. The windows shattered. Gunfire erupted. Adrian moved instantly. He grabbed Clara and pulled her behind cover. Marcus protected Clara's mother. The room exploded into chaos. But something was different. This time, Adrian wasn't fighting to survive. He was fighting to uncover the truth. One attacker entered through the back door. Adrian recognized him. A man who had worked for him for 10 years. A trusted soldier. Victor? The man's face showed no emotion. I'm sorry, boss. Adrian stared. Why? Victor raised his weapon. Because the old world has to return. Adrian moved before he could fire. The weapon fell. The 2 men fought. Fast, violent, silent. Adrian didn't need to shout. He never did. Every movement showed years of experience. Finally, Victor was on the ground. Adrian grabbed him. Who ordered this? Victor smiled. You really don't know, do you? Adrian's eyes hardened. Know what? Victor whispered. Your father didn't die because of Marcus Hayes. Adrian froze. Victor continued. He died because he discovered the truth. What truth? Victor looked toward Clara. The person who betrayed your family. A pause. Was the person you trusted most. Before Adrian could question him, Victor swallowed something hidden. Poison. His body went still. Clara gasped. Adrian released him. Too late. The room became silent again. Marcus looked at Adrian. I told you. Adrian stared at the dead traitor. Told me what? Marcus's voice was quiet. That the person who destroyed both our families is still standing close to you. Adrian looked around the room. His people, his family, the people he trusted. And for the first time in 20 years, he wondered if the enemy had never been outside. Maybe it had always been beside him. Then Clara's mother spoke, a voice weak from years of silence. Adrian. Everyone turned. She looked at him. I know who betrayed your father. Adrian stepped closer. Who? The woman looked at Clara, then at Adrian, and whispered, Your mother. The room went completely silent. Not the quiet of peace, the quiet of something breaking. Adrian Moretti stared at the woman in front of him. For 20 years, he had carried one belief. His mother was a victim. A woman taken from him too soon. A woman whose death created the man he became. But now, someone was telling him she was the reason everything happened. No. The word left his mouth before he could stop it. His voice was low, almost a whisper. No. Clara's mother looked at him with sadness. I wish I was wrong. Adrian stepped closer. Be careful. Everyone felt the warning in his voice. Not a threat, a wound. Do not speak about my mother unless you know the truth. The woman nodded. I do. She reached into her coat, pulled out a small envelope. I kept this for 20 years. Adrian stared. What is it? Proof. Clara moved closer. Adrian. He didn't look away from the envelope, because he already knew. Whatever was inside would change everything. Again. The envelope was old. The edges were damaged, like someone had protected it through years of hiding. Adrian took it. His hands remained steady. But Clara noticed something. A slight movement. A small tremor. The first sign of emotion she had ever seen from him. He opened it. Inside was a letter. His mother's handwriting. The moment he saw the first words, his entire world stopped. My son. Adrian couldn't breathe for a second. Clara watched his face change. The cold mask disappeared. And beneath it was a son reading words from a mother he believed he had lost forever. He continued silently. But Clara could see the pain. Then Marcus spoke quietly. She wrote that before everything happened. Adrian looked up. You knew? Marcus nodded. I helped her write it. A dangerous silence filled the room. You helped her? Yes. Then why didn't I get this? Marcus looked down. Because she asked me not to give it to you. Adrian's eyes hardened. Why? The answer came softly. Because she knew you would come looking for the truth. Clara stepped closer. And what did the letter say? Adrian didn't answer. For several seconds. He just stared at the paper. Then he spoke. She knew someone inside the family was planning something. Everyone listened. She knew my father was in danger. A pause. And she knew she would be blamed. Clara frowned. So your mother wasn't the traitor. Adrian looked at her. No. His voice was firm. She was investigating one. The room changed. The impossible suddenly became possible. The accusations. The lies. The missing years. Maybe everything had been built on a false story. Marcus nodded. Your mother discovered someone was using both families. Who? Marcus looked away. We never found out. Adrian's expression turned cold. 20 years and you never found out? We got close. And? People around us started dying. Clara looked at the photograph on the table. Then why did my father disappear? Marcus sighed. Because he was protecting you. From who? A pause. From the same person who wanted Adrian's family destroyed. Adrian looked at Clara, and for the first time, he understood the connection. Their lives weren't accidentally connected. They had been connected from the beginning. 2 children, 2 families, 1 hidden enemy. Suddenly, a phone rang. Everyone turned. It was Clara's. She looked confused. "I don't know this number." Adrian immediately reached out. "Don't answer." But Clara already had. "Hello?" Silence. Then a voice. An older man's voice. Calm. Controlled. "Clara." Her face changed. "Who is this?" Adrian watched her carefully. Because he saw something. Recognition. Not from memory. From instinct. The voice continued. "You finally found them." Clara looked around. "Found who?" A pause. "Your family." The room went still. "How do you know me?" The voice laughed softly. "Because I knew you before you knew yourself." Adrian stepped closer. "Give me the phone." Clara held it. The voice heard him. "Ah." A pause. "Adrian Moretti." The man sounded amused. "Still protecting everyone except yourself." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" A moment of silence. Then, "The person your father spent 20 years trying to stop." Adrian's hand tightened. "Name." The voice ignored him. "Clara." She swallowed. "Yes? Do you know why your father hid you?" "No. Because you carry something." Everyone looked at her. "What?" The voice became quieter. "Something your mother died protecting." Adrian grabbed the phone. "Where are you?" A laugh. "Still asking the wrong questions." "What questions should I ask?" The answer came immediately. "Ask yourself why your mother never told you about Clara." Silence. Adrian froze. Because the voice knew something impossible. Something only a few people knew. The call ended. Nobody spoke. Then Clara whispered, "Why did he say that?" Adrian didn't answer. Because he didn't know. And that scared him. Later that night, Adrian returned to the Moretti estate. Clara insisted on coming. He wanted to argue, but he stopped. Because she was right. Running from the truth had already destroyed enough lives. Inside the estate, Adrian opened a locked room. A room nobody had entered for 20 years. His mother's room. Clara stood behind him. "You kept it exactly the same." Adrian nodded. "Yes." "Why?" A pause. "Because changing it felt like admitting she wasn't coming back." For the first time, Clara saw his loneliness. Not the loneliness of a powerful man. The loneliness of someone who lost the person who made him feel human. Adrian searched through old belongings, letters, photos, documents, until he found something hidden behind a painting. A small box. Inside, a necklace. Another one, matching Clara's. Adrian stared, because inside the box was a note, his mother's handwriting. "Adrian, if you find this, it means Clara has returned." His breathing stopped. Clara looked at him. "What does it say?" Adrian continued reading. "The girl you think is a stranger." A pause. "Is the person I promised to protect." Clara's eyes widened. "What?" Adrian looked at the next line, and his face changed completely, because the final sentence revealed the truth. "Clara is not Marcus Hayes' daughter." Silence. Everyone froze. The letter continued. "She is mine." Adrian slowly lowered the paper. Clara stared at him. "No." Her voice broke. "That's impossible." But Adrian couldn't answer. Because the woman he had been protecting, the woman connected to his family's darkest secret, was not just part of the mystery. She was part of him. Then another sound came. A gunshot. From outside. The window shattered. Adrian moved instantly. He pushed Clara to the ground. The bullet missed her by inches. His men rushed in. Sniper. Adrian looked toward the darkness outside. His expression changed. The past was no longer hiding. It was coming for them. And now, the person they were trying to protect was the biggest secret of the Moretti family. The gunshot echoed through the Moretti estate. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Not because they were frozen by fear, because everyone understood what had just happened. Someone had fired at Clara, not Adrian. Not Marcus, not the people who had been fighting for power. Her. Adrian was already on his feet. The moment the glass shattered, his body reacted before his mind. He had pushed Clara down, covered her, protected her, again. But this time, he knew why. Because the truth was no longer a mystery. Clara Hayes was not simply connected to his family's past. She was the center of it. Find him. Adrian's voice was quiet, almost calm, but everyone in the room knew that calm was dangerous. His men immediately moved. No panic, no shouting, just action. Because Adrian Moretti didn't need to create fear. He carried it with him. Clara slowly sat up. Her hands were shaking. Not because of the bullet, because of the letter. The words were still inside her head. Clara is not Marcus Hayes' daughter. She is mine. She looked at Adrian, and for the first time since meeting him, she didn't know what to say, because every answer she had ever known about herself had disappeared. My whole life. Her voice trembled. Everything I believed. Adrian turned toward her. Clara. No. She looked at him. Don't tell me it's going to be okay. A pause. Because it isn't. Adrian stopped. She wasn't angry at him. She was hurting. And somehow, that was harder. I don't know who I am. The words came quietly. I don't know who my parents were. I don't know why people are trying to kill me. I don't know why your mother wrote that. A tear fell. And I don't even know if my own memories are real. Adrian wanted to answer. To fix it. To control the situation. But this was not an enemy he could defeat. This was pain. And he had never learned how to fight that. I don't know either. Clara looked at him. What? Adrian lowered his eyes. I don't know everything. A pause. And I hate that. The honesty surprised her, because Adrian Moretti admitting weakness felt almost impossible. I spent 20 years believing I knew exactly what happened. He looked toward the broken window. I was wrong. A pause. About my father. Another pause. About Marcus. Another. Maybe even about my mother. Clara watched him. For the first time, they were standing on the same side of the unknown. Not a powerful man protecting a helpless woman. Two people searching for answers. The sniper was never found. The shot had been carefully planned. One bullet, one warning. No attempt to kill. Just enough to remind them someone was watching. By morning, the Moretti estate had become a fortress. Security around every entrance. Guards on every floor. Cameras watching every corner. Clara sat in the library surrounded by old documents. She had spent hours reading, trying to find a piece of herself hidden somewhere. A name, a memory, anything. Adrian entered. You should sleep. She didn't look up. You say that a lot. Because you don't listen. A faint smile appeared. Neither do you. For a moment, the tension disappeared. Just for a moment. Adrian placed a cup of tea beside her. She looked at it. You made this? No. She almost smiled. I was going to say that would be surprising. My staff did. Of course. Silence. Then Clara asked, Did you hate me? The question caught him off guard. What? When you thought I was connected to all of this. A pause. Did you think I was the enemy? Adrian looked at her. No. Why? Because you didn't act like one. Clara lowered her eyes. What does an enemy look like? Adrian answered immediately. Someone who chooses to hurt others. A pause. You never did. Those words meant more than he realized, because Clara had spent her whole life believing kindness made her ordinary. But Adrian saw something else. Strength. The library door opened. Marcus entered. Adrian's expression changed. We need to talk. Clara stood. About what? Marcus looked at Adrian. About the truth you still don't know. Adrian didn't move. Explain. Marcus walked toward the desk. The reason everyone is searching for Clara isn't because of her blood. Clara frowned. Then why? Marcus placed a document on the table. Because of what her mother left behind. Adrian opened it. Inside was a symbol. The same symbol from the necklaces. A circle. A hidden mark. What is this? Marcus looked serious. A key. A key to what? A pause. The Moretti fortune? No. The organization? No. Marcus looked at Clara. A secret. Clara frowned. Why would a secret matter more than money or power? Marcus answered. Because some secrets can destroy people who are still alive. Adrian read the document. His expression changed. What is this? Marcus looked away. The original agreement. Between who? Your father. Mine? Marcus nodded. And your mother. A pause. The agreement that was supposed to end the war between our families. Adrian continued reading, then stopped, because one sentence caught his attention. The child will be hidden until the rightful heir returns. He looked at Clara. The child. Marcus nodded. Her. Clara stepped back. No. Marcus looked at her sadly. Yes. Why? Because your existence threatens someone. Who? Marcus didn't answer. And that silence told Adrian everything. The door suddenly opened. One of Adrian's guards rushed in. Boss. Adrian turned. What? The guard looked nervous. We found the sniper. Everyone froze. Where? The guard swallowed. He didn't escape. A pause. He was waiting. Adrian moved immediately. Take me there. The sniper was found near the edge of the property. Dead. But before dying, he left something. A small recorder. Adrian pressed play. A man's voice filled the room. A voice everyone recognized. Older. Calm. Controlled. The voice of someone who believed he could never lose. Adrian. Everyone froze. Because the voice belonged to the man who had supposedly started everything. Alessandro Moretti. Adrian's grandfather. The recording continued. If you are hearing this. A pause. Then Clara has finally returned. Adrian's face changed. The voice continued. You spent 20 years searching for the person who betrayed your family. A pause. But you never asked the most important question. Who created the betrayal? The room became silent. Then the final words played. The enemy you fear is not inside your family. A pause. It is the person who built your family. The recording ended. Nobody spoke, because everyone understood. The war had a beginning. A real beginning. And it wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Clara's mother. It wasn't even Adrian's father. It was Alessandro Moretti, the founder, the man who created everything. And now, the truth was leading them to the one person who had been controlling the entire story from the shadows. A man who had been dead for decades, but somehow was still winning. The name stayed in the room long after the recording ended. Alessandro Moretti. Nobody spoke. Because sometimes the truth didn't arrive like an explosion. Sometimes it arrived quietly. And that was worse. But Adrian stood beside the old recorder, staring at it as if it had betrayed him. His grandfather. The man who built the Moretti Empire. The man whose portrait hung in the family hall. The man Adrian had been taught to respect since childhood. The man everyone described as a visionary, a legend, a leader. But legends were often just stories, told by people who survived. And sometimes, the truth behind those stories was much darker. Clara watched Adrian carefully. She had seen him angry. She had seen him dangerous. She had seen him in control. But this was different. This was the expression of someone discovering that the foundation of his entire life had been built on a lie. Adrian. He didn't respond. Adrian. Finally, he looked at her. I'm fine. She almost smiled sadly. You really need a different answer. A pause. That one is not believable anymore. For a moment, something almost human appeared on his face. A small expression. A reminder that beneath everything, he was still a person. I'm trying to understand. Clara nodded. So am I. Marcus walked toward the table. There is something you need to know. Adrian looked at him. Another secret? Marcus accepted the anger. Yes. A pause. But this one explains everything. He opened the old document again. Alessandro Moretti built the organization differently than everyone believed. Adrian frowned. He built it on loyalty. No. Marcus shook his head. He built it on control. The words were heavy. Your grandfather believed people could not be trusted. Marcus continued. So he created a system where everyone needed him. Enemies, allies, even family. Adrian stared. My father knew? Eventually. And he tried to stop him. Marcus nodded. Yes. That's why he died. A long silence. Yes. Clara looked at Adrian. His hands were clenched. Not with rage, with pain. Because all his life, Adrian had believed his father was weak for losing. Now he was learning something else. His father had sacrificed himself trying to break the cycle. My mother. Adrian's voice lowered. What was she trying to do? Marcus looked at him. Finish what your father started. Clara stepped closer. And me? Marcus looked at her. Your mother found out Alessandro created a secret agreement. What agreement? One that gave him control over both families forever. Adrian immediately understood. The child. Marcus nodded. Yes. The child who would unite both families. A pause. The child who could legally destroy everything Alessandro built. Everyone looked at Clara. She felt the weight of their eyes. Not because they saw her as weak, because they finally understood her importance. But Clara hated it. I never asked for this. Marcus nodded. I know. I never wanted power. I know. I just wanted a normal life. Marcus's expression softened. That's why your mother chose you. Clara frowned. Why? Because Alessandro wanted someone hungry for power. A pause. Your mother wanted someone who knew the value of kindness. The words stayed with her. Because all her life, people had underestimated her kindness. They saw it as softness. But now, it had become the one thing that protected her. That evening, Adrian returned to the family archives. Alone. He opened old records, letters, documents, everything connected to Alessandro. For hours, he searched, until he found something hidden beneath the floor. A small metal box. Inside, a journal. The first page had a date, 25 years earlier, and one sentence. The child must never know the truth. Adrian turned the page. His eyes moved quickly, then stopped. Because the journal wasn't written by Alessandro. It was written by his father. Adrian sat down. His father's handwriting. His father's thoughts. His father's final words. If my son finds this, then I failed. Adrian closed his eyes. For years, he believed his father abandoned him, left him with a broken family, left him with an impossible legacy. But now, he was reading the words of a man who had been fighting alone. The journal continued. Adrian, you will hate me for what I did. You will think I was weak. But one day, you will understand. I didn't leave you. I stayed away because staying near you would have put a target on your back. Adrian's breathing changed. A man who faced danger without fear was struggling to read the next words. The truth is this. The person who destroyed our family is not Alessandro alone. A pause. Someone helped him. Adrian turned the page. A name appeared. A name he knew. A name that made his entire body freeze. Because it was someone he had trusted. Someone who had raised him. Someone who had protected him. Someone who had been beside him for years. He closed the journal, unable to continue. At that exact moment, his phone rang. Gabriel. Adrian answered. Speak. His brother's voice sounded urgent. Adrian. What happened? A pause. Someone broke into the estate. Adrian stood. Who? Gabriel hesitated. And that hesitation told him everything. Someone who knew the security codes. Adrian's eyes darkened. Who? Gabriel finally answered. The person who has been protecting Clara since the beginning. Silence. Adrian looked toward the journal. The hidden truth. The betrayal. The name he had not yet accepted. What are you saying? Gabriel's voice became quieter. Adrian. A pause. Your mother wasn't the only one hiding secrets. The call ended. Adrian walked back into the library. Clara and the others looked at him. They immediately knew something happened. What is it? Clara asked. Adrian didn't answer. Because he didn't know how to say it. How do you tell someone that the person you trusted most might be the person who destroyed everything? Then the lights went out. Again. The estate fell into darkness. A familiar sound followed. Footsteps. Slow. Calm. Coming from the hallway. Everyone turned. A figure appeared. Not an attacker. Not a stranger. Someone they knew. Someone Clara trusted. Someone Adrian trusted. The person removed their coat and stepped into the light. Adrian froze, because the person standing there was the last person he expected. His own mother. Alive. She looked at him. 20 years of silence between them. Then she whispered, I'm sorry, Adrian. A pause. I should have told you the truth. Adrian couldn't move, because behind her, standing in the shadows, was Alessandro Moretti, the man who was supposed to be dead, smiling. The world Adrian Moretti knew ended twice. The first time was 20 years ago, the night his father died, the night his family broke apart, the night Adrian learned that love could disappear without warning. The second time was now. Because the woman standing in front of him, the woman he had mourned, the woman whose memory shaped every decision he ever made, was alive. His mother, Elena Moretti. Adrian didn't move, didn't speak. For a man who had spent his entire life controlling every situation, he had no control over this moment. His eyes searched her face, looking for proof, looking for the person he remembered. The woman who used to hold his hand when storms frightened him. The woman who taught him kindness before the world taught him cruelty. Mom? The word escaped before he could stop it. A word he hadn't spoken in 20 years. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Adrian. Her voice broke. And for one impossible second, he was not a feared man, not a leader, not someone everyone depended on. He was just a son. Then his expression changed. Pain returned. Anger followed. You were alive. Elena lowered her eyes. Yes. You let me believe you were dead. A pause. Yes. The answer hurt more than any excuse, because she didn't deny it. She didn't defend herself. She accepted the wound. Why? His voice was quiet. But everyone felt the weight behind it. Why would you do that? Elena looked at him. Because if you knew I was alive. A pause. You would have come looking. Adrian stared. And Alessandro would have found you. The name filled the room. Everyone became still. The old man standing behind Elena stepped forward. Alessandro Moretti. Older. Different. But the same cold eyes. The same confidence. The same presence. The man who built an empire from fear. "Hello, grandson." Adrian looked at him. No emotion. No hesitation. "You." Alessandro smiled. "I see you inherited your father's temper." Adrian stepped forward. His men immediately followed. But Alessandro didn't react. Because he knew something. He knew Adrian. "You can point weapons at me." A pause. "But you still want answers." Adrian stopped. Because the old man was right. He hated that. Why? One word. 20 years of anger behind it. Why destroy everything? Alessandro looked around the room. Destroy? A faint smile. "No. I built everything." Marcus stepped forward. "You built suffering." Alessandro looked at him. "And you survived because of me." Marcus's expression hardened. "You took everything." "No," Alessandro corrected. "I revealed what people really are." Clara watched the exchange. She understood something. This man didn't see himself as evil. That was what made him dangerous. He believed every terrible thing he did was justified. "You used our families," Adrian said. "Yes." "You manipulated everyone." "Yes." "You killed people." A pause. Alessandro looked at him. "I made difficult choices." Clara felt disgust. Not because he was powerful, because he refused responsibility. People like him never admitted they were wrong. They only explained why they were right. Elena stepped forward. "Enough." Everyone looked at her. Alessandro's expression changed slightly. "You still protect them?" "Yes." "After everything?" "Especially after everything." Adrian looked at his mother. "Tell me the truth." Elena nodded. "I will." She took a deep breath. "Your father discovered Alessandro's plan." A pause. "He wanted to expose him." "Then why didn't he?" "Because Alessandro had already prepared." Elena looked at Clara. "He knew about Clara." Clara froze. "My daughter?" Elena nodded. "Yes." Marcus looked down. Alessandro wanted to use her. "For what?" Elena answered, "To control both families." The room became silent. Elena continued. "According to the agreement, Clara's existence could unite everything. The businesses, the money, the influence." A pause. But Alessandro didn't want unity. She looked at him. He wanted ownership. Adrian looked at Clara. All these years, everyone had been fighting over power. And she had been treated like a key, a solution, a weapon, except one person. Him. Alessandro noticed and smiled. "Interesting." Adrian looked at him. "What?" "You." A pause. "You became exactly what I predicted." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "A monster?" "No." Alessandro smiled. "Worse. You became a man who cares." The words sounded like an insult, but Adrian knew. To Alessandro, compassion was weakness. Alessandro continued. "Your father failed because he cared. Marcus failed because he cared. Your mother failed because she cared." He looked at Clara. "And now you will fail too." Adrian stepped forward. "No." Everyone looked at him. His voice was calm, but different. "No?" Alessandro smiled. Adrian looked at Clara, then his mother, then Marcus. "I won't fail." A pause. "Because I finally understand." Alessandro waited. "What?" Adrian looked back at him. "You spent your entire life trying to control people." A pause. "But you never understood them." For the first time, Alessandro's expression changed. Only slightly, but enough. Adrian continued. "You thought fear created loyalty." A pause. "It doesn't. You thought power made family." Another pause. It doesn't. He looked at Clara. Family is choosing someone when you have nothing to gain. The room became silent. Because Adrian had finally understood the lesson his mother tried to teach him. The lesson he spent years forgetting. Suddenly, a loud crash came from outside. Gunfire. Everyone turned. One of Alessandro's men rushed in. "Sir!" Alessandro looked annoyed. "What happened?" The man hesitated. "Your security team." A pause. They switched sides. Silence. Alessandro's face changed. "What?" The man continued. "Mr. Moretti's people have taken control of the property." He looked at Adrian. "Your grandson planned this." Alessandro looked at Adrian. "You knew?" Adrian didn't answer. Because he did. The moment Alessandro entered the estate, Adrian knew one thing. A man like him never came alone. So Adrian had already moved his people. Not to attack, to protect. Alessandro laughed. A cold, empty laugh. "You really are my grandson." Adrian looked at him. "No." A pause. "I'm the man who ends what you started." Then Alessandro revealed his final weapon. He looked at Clara. "You still don't understand." Everyone turned. Alessandro smiled. "She isn't just the key to the agreement." A pause. "She's the reason your father died." Clara froze. "What?" Alessandro looked at Adrian. "Ask your mother." Silence. Adrian slowly turned. Elena's face changed. And that was enough. Because she knew. "Mom?" Elena closed her eyes. A tear fell. "I'm sorry." Adrian felt his chest tighten. "What did you do?" Elena looked at Clara, then whispered, "I was the one who gave you away." The room went silent, because the final secret, the one everyone had been protecting, was not about Alessandro, not about Marcus, not about the war. It was about Elena, Adrian's mother, and the choice she made that changed Clara's entire life. The silence after Elena's confession was unbearable, not because nobody had anything to say, because everyone had too much. Adrian stared at his mother, the woman he had spent 20 years missing, the woman he had imagined 1,000 times, the woman he believed was a victim. And now, she was standing in front of him with tears in her eyes, carrying a truth that could destroy the last piece of trust he had left. "You gave her away." His voice was quiet. Too quiet. Elena looked down. "Yes." Adrian took a step back. "Why?" A pause. "Why would you do that?" Clara stood frozen. She wasn't angry yet. She was trying to understand. Because anger required an answer. And she didn't have one. Not yet. Elena looked at her. "Because I was trying to save you." Clara shook her head slowly. "Everyone says that." Her voice cracked. "Everyone says they hurt me. Because they were protecting me." A pause. "But nobody ever asks what it felt like for me." Those words hit harder than any accusation. Because they were true. Everyone had been fighting a war around Clara. But nobody had asked what it was like to be the person trapped inside it. Elena walked closer. "I know." "No." Clara stepped back. "You don't." A pause. "You knew my name. You knew where I was. You knew I was growing up without answers." Tears filled her eyes. "And you still stayed away." Elena couldn't argue. Because Clara was right. There was no explanation that could erase 20 years of loneliness. Adrian looked at his mother. "What happened?" Elena closed her eyes. "Your father discovered Alessandro's plan." She looked at Marcus. And Marcus discovered it too. A pause. They wanted to expose him. But Alessandro knew. She continued. He knew about Clara before anyone else. He knew she could destroy everything he built. Adrian frowned. "How?" Elena looked at the necklace around Clara's neck. "Because Clara was born with something Alessandro could never control." "What?" Elena answered. "Proof." Everyone looked confused. Elena continued. Your father and Marcus created a legal document. A hidden agreement. A record of every illegal operation Alessandro controlled. A pause. But they needed someone outside the organization to protect it. Clara touched her necklace. Me? Elena nodded. Your mother and I created a way to hide the information. Adrian looked at the necklace. The pendant. Yes. The realization hit him. The necklace wasn't a symbol of power. It wasn't a mark of inheritance. It was a hiding place. A secret carried through generations. Then why didn't you tell her? Elena looked at Adrian. Because someone was watching. Who? Elena hesitated. Then, someone close. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Again with the secrets. Elena looked at him. Because every person who knew the truth disappeared. A pause. Your father. Marcus. People who helped us. Clara looked at Alessandro. And you? Alessandro smiled. I survived. The room became colder. Because that was the truth about men like Alessandro. They always survived. They built their world from other people's losses. Adrian turned toward Alessandro. Is this what you wanted? Alessandro looked amused. What? To break everyone. A pause. To make us distrust each other. Alessandro smiled. No. A pause. I wanted to prove something. People always betray each other eventually. Adrian shook his head. You don't understand. Alessandro looked at him. What? You're wrong. A pause. People betray each other when they have nothing worth protecting. He looked at Clara, and she reminded me what was worth protecting. Alessandro's expression darkened. For the first time. He looked uncertain. Because Adrian was no longer the young man he remembered. He wasn't controlled by anger anymore. He was controlled by purpose. Then Alessandro revealed the final piece. You still don't know the whole truth. Nobody moved. Adrian stared. What now? Alessandro looked at Clara. Ask her. Everyone turned. To Clara. She frowned. Ask me what? Alessandro smiled. Ask yourself why you remember nothing before the age of 6. Clara froze. Because that was true. Her childhood memories began strangely. Almost like a missing chapter. She remembered her mother's voice. She remembered a small house. But everything before that was empty. Elena looked terrified. Don't! Alessandro ignored her. Tell her. Elena shook her head. She doesn't need to know. Adrian stepped forward. No. His voice became firm. She does. Elena looked at him. The son she lost. The man he became. Finally, she understood. Protecting someone from the truth could become another kind of prison. You were 6 years old. Elena's voice trembled. When your father discovered Alessandro's plan, he tried to move you somewhere safe. Clara listened. During that time, a pause. Something happened. What? Elena looked at her. You saw something you weren't supposed to see. Clara felt a chill. What did I see? Elena swallowed. The night your father disappeared. The room went silent. You were there? Elena nodded. You saw who attacked him. Clara stepped back. No. A pause. No. I would remember. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Your mind protected you. Adrian looked at Clara. Everything suddenly made sense. The missing memories, the fear, the secrets. She wasn't just connected to the past. She had witnessed it. Alessandro smiled. Now you understand. Adrian looked at him. Understand what? Why everyone was afraid. A pause. Because Clara doesn't carry a secret. She carries a memory. Suddenly, a sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. Everyone turned. Adrian's security team moved. A man entered. Blood on his shirt. Barely standing. Boss. Adrian recognized him. His oldest friend, Gabriel. What happened? Gabriel looked at Clara. Then Adrian. I found the person who has been leaking information. Everyone waited. Gabriel struggled to speak. It wasn't your mother. It wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Alessandro. Adrian stepped closer. Who? Gabriel looked toward the doorway, and everyone followed his eyes. A woman stood there. Someone Clara recognized. Someone who had been with her for years. Someone she trusted completely. Gabriel whispered, the person who erased Clara's memories. A pause. Was her own aunt. Clara froze, because the person standing in the doorway was the woman who raised her, the woman she called family, and the woman who had just walked back into her life holding a gun. The gun felt impossibly heavy in her hand, not because it was a weapon, because of who was holding it. Clara stared at the woman standing in the doorway, the woman who had packed her lunches as a child, the woman who stayed beside her when she was sick, the woman who held her after nightmares. Aunt Evelyn, the person Clara trusted more than anyone, the person who had always told her, family is the people who stay. But now, she was standing there with a gun pointed at the people Clara had spent days trying to understand. And somehow, the worst part wasn't the danger. It was the betrayal. Evelyn, Clara's voice broke. Why? The woman looked at her, and for a moment, the cold expression disappeared. She looked like the Aunt Clara remembered, the one who loved her, the one who protected her. Then the sadness returned. I'm sorry. Clara shook her head. No. A tear moved down her face. Not again. Everyone became silent, because they understood. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about a woman who had spent her whole life discovering that every person around her had hidden something. Adrian moved slightly, placing himself between Clara and Evelyn. Not aggressively. Protectively. Evelyn noticed. A bitter smile appeared. Just like your father. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? You always stand in front of people. A pause. Even when they don't deserve it. Clara looked at Evelyn. Did you erase my memories? Silence. The question hung in the room. Finally, Evelyn lowered the weapon slightly. Yes. The answer hurt more than a lie, because Clara had hoped. A small part of her had hoped there was another explanation. But there wasn't. Why? Evelyn looked at her. Because you were 6 years old. A pause. And you were carrying a memory that could get you killed. Clara shook her head. You don't get to decide that. I know. No. Her voice became stronger. You don't. A pause. You took something from me. Evelyn closed her eyes. I know. You took my past. I know. You took my choice. A long silence. Evelyn whispered, I know. For the first time, she didn't defend herself. She didn't say she was right. She just accepted the damage. Adrian watched carefully. He had spent his entire life surrounded by people who justified their actions. But Evelyn was different. She looked like someone who had been carrying guilt for years. Tell us everything. Adrian's voice cut through the room. Evelyn looked at him. You really are your father's son. Answer. A pause. Everything. Evelyn slowly lowered the gun. The night Marcus disappeared. She looked at Clara. The night your father was attacked. A pause. You were there. Clara swallowed. I know. You don't. Evelyn shook her head. You remember pieces. The sound. The fear. Your father's voice. Clara touched her head. Suddenly, a memory flashed. A dark room. A child crying. A man's voice. Clara, close your eyes. Don't look. She stepped back. Adrian immediately noticed. What did you see? Clara's breathing became uneven. My father. A pause. He told me to hide. Evelyn continued. You saw the person who attacked him. Who? Evelyn looked at Alessandro, then at Adrian. The person who gave the order. A pause. Was Alessandro? Everyone turned. Alessandro didn't react, because he knew. His silence was confirmation. Marcus stepped forward. You admit it? Alessandro smiled. I made decisions. Adrian's expression turned cold. You destroyed your own family. Alessandro looked at him. No. A pause. I built a stronger one. Adrian looked at him, and something inside him finally broke. Not with anger, with disappointment, because he finally understood. Alessandro was never trying to protect the family. He was trying to own it. You spent your life creating fear, Adrian said. But you forgot something. Alessandro looked at him. What? Adrian glanced at Clara. Fear only works until someone finds something worth fighting for. The room erupted. Alessandro's remaining men moved. But Adrian was ready. His people moved instantly. The battle was not chaotic. It was controlled, because Adrian had learned from every mistake. He wasn't fighting for revenge. He was fighting for an ending. Alessandro tried to escape, but Marcus blocked his path. 20 years of pain between them. You took everything from me. Alessandro looked at him. And yet you survived. Marcus shook his head. No. A pause. I lived. Those words hit harder than any weapon, because Alessandro had never understood the difference. Outside, authorities arrived. The evidence collected over years finally reached the people who could expose everything. The hidden documents, the recordings, the agreements, the truth. For the first time, Alessandro Moretti had nowhere left to hide. Hours later, the estate became quiet. Almost peaceful. Something nobody thought possible. Clara sat in the garden. The same place from the old photographs. Adrian approached. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Clara smiled slightly. You're terrible at conversations. A faint expression crossed his face. I know. You always look like you're negotiating a war. I usually am. She laughed softly. And Adrian realized something. He hadn't heard that sound enough in his life. Do you regret protecting me? Clara asked. Adrian looked at her. No. Even after everything? No. A pause. Especially after everything. Clara looked away. My life is still complicated. Yes. I still don't know exactly who I am. Adrian nodded. That's okay. She looked at him. Okay? You don't need a family name to know your worth. The words stayed with her. Because for years, she searched for where she came from. But maybe, the more important question was who she chose to become. Months later, the Moretti name changed. The old system was dismantled. The businesses connected to innocent people were rebuilt. The secrets that controlled generations finally disappeared. Marcus spent his remaining time repairing what he could. Elena stayed close to Adrian, not as a leader, not as someone with power. As a mother trying to rebuild 20 lost years. And Clara, she returned to the hospital, because that was who she always was. Not an heir, not a symbol, not a secret. A nurse, a woman who helped people. One evening, Adrian visited her after her shift. She looked at him. You know, most people bring flowers. He looked at the small box in his hand. I brought something else. She opened it. Inside was the old pendant, restored, but changed. The hidden compartment was empty. No secrets, no documents, no hidden past. Just a necklace. What happened to the information? Adrian smiled slightly. Destroyed. All of it? All of it. She looked surprised. Why? Adrian answered. Because nobody should have to carry a burden they never chose. Clara looked at him. The man who once lived surrounded by power. The man who trusted nobody. The man who thought protecting people meant controlling them. He had changed. Not because he became weaker, because he finally understood strength. You know? Clara smiled. When we first met, I thought you were terrifying. Adrian raised an eyebrow. And now? She looked at him. Now I think you're still terrifying. A pause, but less lonely. For the first time in years, Adrian laughed, quietly. Honestly, the world would remember the Moretti name differently. Not as a story of power, not as a story of fear, but as a reminder that even the darkest family secrets could be faced, that even broken people could heal, and that sometimes the person you save is the person who saves you back. Because Clara Hayes didn't enter Adrian Moretti's life as a mystery. She entered it as a challenge, a reminder that compassion was not weakness, a reminder that love was not a vulnerability, and a reminder that every person, no matter how powerful, still needed someone who saw the human beneath the name.